For some people, expressing their creativity is something that they do on occasion to enhance their life, like taking a yoga class or dropping by a concert. But for others, it's like oxygen, essential and innate. Creating is as natural as breathing, and you can't imagine your life without it. That's how my guest today, actress and filmmaker Kelly Frye, describes her relationship to acting and the arts. For nearly 2 decades, Kelly has built a career in television, with roles on Criminal Minds and Disney Channel's Secrets of Sulphur Springs. In our conversation, she shares what it's really like to sustain a long-term acting career, the artistry that makes performances resonate, and how collaboration turns acting into something much bigger than one person. Kelly offers perspective and tangible guidance about harnessing the courage to follow an unconventional path, take big leaps, and trust that life will take care of you. Tune in, let me know what you think, and thank you for being here. My name is Samantha Pfotenhauer. This is The Artist Rendezvous, a podcast celebrating the creative act. Hello, welcome back to The Artist Rendezvous. My name is Sam Pfotenhauer. I'd love to start talking a little bit about your acting career. And so first at the outset, could you just share a teeny bit about your career to help give some context for people?
Sure. I've done a lot of television in my career. I've been going now, close to 2 decades, which is hard to say out loud, but it's also a true accomplishment. I think it's not an easy industry to stay on the bike, and I've stayed on the bike, and it's moving forward, which is nice. My longest run on a show was a show called Secrets of Sulphur Springs. Great Disney show. We shot in New Orleans, which I just fell in love with that city. And I really enjoyed getting to play with children. They're now teenagers, but when we started the show, which was right before the pandemic, they were, 8, 9, and 11, something like that. And now they're, graduating high school, one of them at least, and taking Hollywood by storm. So to get to play with them on that show was really a joy. Yeah.
There's something about, there's so many different ways of expressing creatively, but something about acting and acting on TV shows is you're creatively collaborating with not just the other actors on set, but hundreds of people, because it's an entire, you described it to me as like it's a family that can come together, and it's an entire ecosystem. What is that like to be in collaboration with so many people?
I love it. Community is very important to me. I think it's why I prefer working on television versus film. I've been in a few films, but you don't get the same, almost like clocking in and clocking out of a normal job as you do with television. Television, Criminal Minds, for instance, which I was on for years, that's almost been going almost for 20 years. So you look at that show and people from season 1 are on it still today. So those people have had marriages, divorces, children, graduations, deaths, all together in a family sort of way, which is so nice. I think to have that ability to, in a career that can feel very lonely, as an actor or a writer or a director or a set designer or a cinematographer, all of those journeys as an artist can be very singular and lonely.
Why?
Well, why? Because you are propelling yourself forward. You don't have coworkers that you're like, okay, so this is the project we're working on this month, and we're all going to put our energy on that project for the month, and you have people holding you accountable. In my world, you don't really have that. You have, I guess, a version of that with your agents and managers pushing you along. and probably with fellow actors in acting class. I mean, a lot of my community came from an acting class in LA. So that's why it's a joy when you get on a TV show. And you do have a collective thing that you're working on and towards. And knowing that the writers have been in the writer's room for X number of months, and so and working on the script that you have in front of you that you're reading over and over and over again. And then you get to go to set and see the lighting and the camera people and the gaffers, and to get to see that it employs 350 people, give or take, one episode of television, pre-production, production, and post-production. You're a part of something. You're a small part of this grander machine.
Yeah.
And it's fun to get to be a part of that.
Yeah, I think a lot of creatives can relate to being on your own. And yeah, I can think of one person who has a partnership in their work, but a lot of it is solo. And then there's this piece that I think makes a lot more feeling. My work has been like that, which is reaching out and connecting and collaborating. And you're a connector in your life too. And I think with a lot of solo work and the medicine for the challenges of being on your own on this path is reaching out for others and then leaning into the opportunities where you get to be part of something bigger.
And collaborate. Yeah, collaboration's incredible when it works. When it works, you feel it. You're like in the creative zone. And I think when you have multiple people putting their energy in the right way to create something, it is just so much more powerful than trying to do it on your own, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love collaboration.
When was the moment that you realized acting is important for me and I want to pursue this?
Good question. I went to Loyola Marymount for business. I have an international business and business law degree with a minor in Asian Pacific Studies. I was planning on being an international tax attorney. I don't know. I've played attorneys on TV now. My family had a home in Hawaii, and between freshman and sophomore year of college, I went to stay with them in Hawaii, and I had just one of those life-changing summers where I think I was in a mild depression freshman year of college, and that summer being with family and being in paradise, Hawaii, and doing a lot of self-reflection, I realized not only did I come out of that low-grade depression, but I also got, for me, on the right path, which was not to be an attorney. And I had dabbled in acting already at that point, modeling and acting. And I just thought, this is the place where I feel the most seen as a person. The most understood is when I'm performing and when I'm executing well on some material that somebody has written that makes me feel really accomplished when I am able to execute well. Even auditions that I do now in my back cottage with my husband, who's definitely not an actor, and I send in my auditions. If I'm executing well just on that, that is such an I don't know what the right word is. Like checking something off a list for me. It's
satisfying.
Yeah, it's so satisfying. It makes me feel useful in the world, I guess. Anyway, back to Hawaii. Hawaii, I'm there, and I just realized I can try this professionally, and if it doesn't work, I can always go to law school. But if I don't give myself the chance now, then I probably won't ever do it. And I told my parents, and they were super supportive. I mean, very supportive, and said, all right, well, do you want to quit school? What are you going to do? And at that point, I was technically already in my second semester of sophomore year because of, like AP classes and testing out of things. And so I graduated a year early, got an agent, started working during my last year of college, and went to the races. But that was it. That was the moment. It was like, I can't remember if it's The Alchemist or if it is, oh gosh, what's the other book? Celestine Prophecy. I can't remember if it's one or the other, but one of those books says that you should, if you're at a fork in the road, you should imagine in your mind's eye, like what going down that road will lead to and what going down that road will lead to. And I think probably part of that depression was that I wasn't on the path I was supposed to be on. I was kind of taking not that being a lawyer isn't very hard, it's hard, but I was taking the safer route. And this other route is no guarantees, and lonely. And it's where I was meant to be. So.
Oh, I love it. So I wanna tease this out a little bit because I think a lot of people intuitively know what you're feeling, and I think a lot of people are trying to figure out, am I on the path that isn't the right path for me? And so you named a few things already that kind of feel like it when you're not on the right path. And one of them can feel this, you called it a low-level depression. It can also feel like numbness, or like a lack of any creative spark or inspiration. I have definitely felt that in my life. It feels very hard to get engaged. What else did it look like for you, if you remember?
Anxiety.
Yeah.
For sure. I mean, I think anxiety and depression go hand in hand too. But anxiety, I'm a naturally I can only speak from my own experience, right? And I'm a naturally very happy, optimistic person. And so when that is not kind of majority of my time or energy, then I'm like, okay, something's off. And what's off? And how am I going to right my sails so my boat is going the right direction? But yeah, anxiety and depression, which, manifest in different ways for different people.
When I used to be a lawyer, I still am. But when I practiced full time, I very specifically remember going to this. It was like a fake jury, like hire people to pretend they're in juries.
Actors do that
cases.
To make money.
Yes,
on the side.
And I was going to one of those, which is actually really cool. I was really looking forward to it because it was a unique experience for me, and I really like the lawyers I got to be with, and the entire way there, I just felt like my throat was closing. And I remember that entire year I was in depositions and deposition preps, and I would feel like my throat and my chest were closing. And I would look around and be like, I know I'm safe here. Like this isn't a sign of something bad's about to happen. It was my body telling me, like, I don't want to be in this role anymore. That path was not the right path for me. And I knew it on some level, but it's a hard leap. It can be a hard leap to take.
I think you can feel it. And then people either choose to listen to those signs, either emotionally or physically that manifests, or they choose to ignore it. And then eventually it like hits you over the head. No, I definitely I used to eat a lot of those feelings too. There was some numbing of myself that would happen through that. And I don't know, I don't have an issue with food. So that was a weird thing for me to go through.
Yeah.
But that was a tall tale sign.
On the other side, we have creative expression. And it's not just creativity. What you described, if I feel the most seen on stage, it's being witnessed, it's connecting with yourself, it's letting other people see you, support you. There's a lot of vulnerability that goes into following something that is not only a dream and a passion and has no guaranteed success, but also is literally tons of people, thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people are literally looking at you. So why is creativity worth it for you? Or what does it offer you in your life?
I don't really know life without it. So I guess it's like oxygen. I don't, that's a hard question for me to answer because I haven't there was a very short period of my life where I was putting myself on the wrong path. So it just feels like another limb, I guess.
That's an amazing way to answer it because it is so a part of you that it's the idea of not having it, it would be like separating from a part of yourself that was never meant to be separated.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And mine manifests the way that it does in my life. But I think everybody has a creative channel and they've just got to figure out how to tap into it. And then how does that want to come through you? Is that being an art advisor like my husband? Or is that starting a crypto fund? I don't, that's totally not my world. But I think there are all sorts of ways that you can, or is it having children? I mean, that's an incredible creative journey that so many people are lucky to have. I mean, that's the ultimate creation, actually.
The ultimate creation.
Yeah.
Yeah. Creating life, human form, and then a life for someone to live, like being an early architect in someone else's life.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what sort of artistry goes into acting? Or let me see this another way. What are skills that people have to develop to make acting something that you can feel, not just something that you do and you're like, okay, I was competent on this. I memorized the lines. I said them. I, was stood in the right place. The camera could capture me. What makes acting, as somebody who doesn't know very much about it, something that goes into the world of an artist that someone could feel what they're portraying?
I think that you have to have the nuts and bolts, memorizing lines, knowing kind of what you are in the world and what you're supposed to express, because there are definitely archetypes for a reason. You have to have all of that down, and obviously not being afraid of the camera, or if of course you're a TV and film actor, or not being afraid of an audience if you're a stage actor. And knowing your instrument, knowing your voice, how to be in your voice. But on the maybe side that's a little harder to pinpoint, I think acting is, to be a good actor, you've really got to understand people and humans. And if you aren't in touch with why somebody would act the way they do, then you can't really do justice to a character that's being put in front of you. There are no, there's the saying that there are no bad people. They're just people who have bad behavior, and it comes from somewhere. So what is the motivation behind a serial killer or whatever, or an abusive mom? Where does that come from? What happened to her that this is how she treats her children? And finding that map and the way into those characters. I don't know if that answers your question.
That absolutely answers my question. Do you think acting has helped you build empathy?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
Why? Or tell me more about that.
I've always been very empathetic, sometimes to my own detriment. But I think the more that you, as an actor, read scripts and you're in acting class and you're working on characters you maybe never would be cast as, but you're breaking down the character and you're finding their motivation in life and why they act the way they do and where that behavior comes from, and building a history for these characters, it makes you realize, like, oh, that person who cut me off in traffic, just got to let it go, because maybe they're rushing to the hospital, or maybe they had a really bad morning when they got bad news, or it's we're all on a journey, all of us in the world. And sometimes you've got to just be okay with maybe somebody coming into your lane that is not about you. It's about whatever is going on in their life.
Yeah. That's such a cool perspective. I don't think I've ever heard that before, but I see what you're saying so much, and how the being able to portray a character would require you to understand them at a deep level. And then you see it. Then you can see those patterns all over the place.
And understand yourself.
Yeah.
If you don't, I think there's a casting director years ago who said, it doesn't matter how many workshops you do or how many acting classes you do or how many, the things that we focus on as actors that we feel like we need to get under our belt. She said, yes, of course you have to do those things, but the most important thing is living a life and having experiences, because how can I do justice to a character that I'm playing who is going through a nasty divorce from a narcissistic ex-husband and has lost a child if I haven't had experiences in life that I can lend towards that? If you kind of live in a padded room and you're just going to acting classes and reading about other people's lives, then how are you really authentically supposed to embody these experiences that are dramatized for screen? But also, if you do them well, people at home or people in the audience, if you're on stage, are seeing an experience that they can relate to. And maybe they can't process it on their own, but they're seeing it through somebody else in a performance. Then they can really process and not feel so alone.
Absolutely. And I can think of experiences that I've had watching film or TV depict an experience that I had, and it wasn't till I saw it that it overwhelmed me, but gave me context and new understanding for what I experienced. I needed to see it outside of myself. And I can think of I'm thinking of these specific movies where how healing that was, because it gave me a level of acceptance and understanding for this that I couldn't for, a decade.
And you're not alone.
Yeah.
That's the other thing. Because I do think, especially with more difficult life situations that people go through, you can feel like, oh, I'm the only one experiencing this. I'm alone in this experience. When in fact, probably thousands and thousands and thousands of people have experienced that heartache or loss or something that has gone against you as a person with your human experience. But then getting to see it on screen or see it on the stage makes you go, oh my gosh, it wasn't just me. This is something that happens to a lot of people. That's why hard stories are important to tell.
Is there anything that you feel that you need to do in your life to stay engaged, or does it happen naturally for you? Like engage with life and not stay in a padded room.
We talked about this off the podcast before. My moving from LA to Austin, I really, truly was making a concerted effort to just invest in me and my time and energy and my husband and our home and hopefully our future family. And that's just not how I'm built. I'm built to be part of the community. And LA, for my 18 years that I was there, of school and then being in the world in LA and in the industry, I was very involved. I mean, I wasn't just in an acting class. I then taught at that studio. I was there 5 days a week. I was coaching people outside of class just to help them out. I'm just not somebody who can sit in a room by myself. So when I moved to Austin and I tried to do that, I tried to kind of set tasks for myself, like writing a script. Well, that's a lot of alone time in the house by yourself or wherever you write. And that's not how I'm supposed to be.
Yeah.
I am supposed to be involved. And within a year of being here, my husband and myself were both very involved on this host committee and going to that event. And he started a business that's all about community. That's how both of us, thankfully, are wired. It's important to me to interact with people and to have community.
And I think not everyone's wired like that, but for people who are, I am wired like that also. And I've had the fortune of looking at Kelly's birth chart. And it is all over it. It's all over it. And it is in mine too. And I've had times where I didn't have that. I voluntarily let it go because of a past partner's, following their path or feeling like I needed to for some reason. And there can be short periods of life where that can be beneficial. But for people who feel that, you got to do it. And you got to, like, if there's anything keeping you from it, you got to do it. You got to make the new people. You got to go out in public and you need to have your green light on. And because that's your way.
Have your green light on. I like that.
Yeah. So you got really involved in something that has nothing. So in addition to being an actress, you're also a filmmaker. We hopefully will have time to come back to that. But I want to skip ahead to the philanthropy piece because this happened, my understanding, in large part because you couldn't help yourself in getting involved in the Austin community and meeting people and forming sincere connection. And opportunities arose, but also needs that you were saying this is a need and I'd like to get involved in addressing it. Can you tell me a little bit about what you're doing in Austin?
Yes. I'm obsessed with the 10-mile hike and bike trail that goes around Lady Bird Lake. And there is a nonprofit that looks after that trail called the Trail Conservancy. There is very, very, very little funding from the city. Really,
people don't know that.
Yeah.
I assumed that this was created by the city of Austin and funded by it, but that's not true.
No. Lady Bird Johnson and Ann Butler created the trail. Actually, the motivation for it came from the Thames in London. So I don't know if you know that story.
Yeah. No, I didn't. No? I don't know the story.
So Lady Bird Johnson and President Johnson were in London, and Ann Butler and Roy Butler, the mayor at the time, were also in London staying at the Savoy. And they went over to Lady Bird Johnson and President Johnson's suite that overlooked the Thames. And Lady Bird said, Anne, come out here. I need to show you something. And they go out on the balcony overlooking the Thames. And all these people, if you've been to London, there's a huge walkway all along the river there. And she said, this is what we need to do in Austin. And yeah, you don't know the story. A lot of people don't know the story. And they threw a fundraiser at Johnson Ranch, at the Johnson family ranch in Johnson City. And a bunch of people flew in, like a bunch of their hoity-toity friends flew in from all over, not just Texans, people from New York and LA and wherever else. And they fundraised the first X amount, I don't know what the amount was, to build the trail. And if you look at photos from before they started that project, it was barren.
I saw a photo recently and I was shocked.
There were no trees.
There's on this trail. So this is anybody who's watching this who hasn't been to Austin, there's a trail that goes through downtown, it connects with Sulphur, where ACL Live, the huge music festival is, all the way down around. I live 3 or 4 blocks off the trail and I go on it every day. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think there's 5 million unique visitors each year, which is more than the Grand Canyon. People come to Austin. And it's amazing. I take my 4-year-old niece on the trail. I take, my family members. You see people on the trail who are babies through their 80s or 90s. You see people running and bike riding every single day. And it is this, you see bachelorette parties, like everybody has a place there. It's a free third space that's beautiful and allows us all to stay healthy. But it's also mostly covered with trees.
Yes, it's incredible.
It's beautiful.
Incredible shade. And for a very pale redhead, it's a nice nice place for me to spend time. And it's all about community. Back to community. The trail is an incredible place to build friendships or have relationship walks or take your kiddos on a walk or your friends' kids on a walk. It's a very special amenity that we have in Austin. And a lot of people don't know that it is mostly privately funded. So my husband and I, when we first moved here, we rented a place in Travis Heights, and we were very close to the trail, and we would do it almost every day with our dog. And probably a week in, he turned to me and he goes, "Where's all the public art?" And I was like, "Oh, I don't know, but what a great way to get involved." Because my husband moving to Austin, this is the first time that he's ever lived outside of his community.
And where's he from?
From England. And so Kent and London. And a lot of British people tend to not live abroad. Like I feel like Americans were used to starting over. You start over from middle school to high school. You start over from high school to college. You start over again post-college. Most of my friends, at least, have. And a lot of the Brits do school in England, college, university in England, and then they work in London. And so his moving to Austin was the first time in his life that he had to properly start over.
Wow.
And that was an interesting thing to witness as a partner. And he's flourished. He's totally blossomed in the Austin community and Texas community. He started saying y'all within 24 hours of being here.
It's a great word.
Yeah. But y'all with a British accent is particularly special. And I said to Nick, honey, that's a great way to get involved in the community and to meet friends. So why don't you figure out who's in charge of the trail? And he did. He emailed and called, and finally the CEO of the Trail Conservancy at the time, Heidi Anderson, who's incredible, called him and goes, "Why are you bothering my staff? What do you want?" And Nick explained he's an art advisor. He had just moved to Austin. He wanted to get involved, and where's all the public art? And she said, well, funny, divine timing, because she had just formed a arts and culture committee, because there had been a moratorium on adding public sculpture to the trail, which had just been lifted. And so we are on the tail end now of like 3 years of temporary art on the trail. And after that, we can start adding permanent art to the trail. And, think Highline in New York, something like that. And so Nick is I believe still the only private sector person on the Arts and Culture Committee. Everybody else is either from museums in town, or actually one other person has joined recently who's part of a gallery, so she's private sector. But it's a great group of people that are helping shape with community input what should be on the trail. And
why should art be on the trail at all?
Well, I think art is like oxygen. I think it is so important for people from all walks of life to be exposed to art. It would be sad if future artists were only from families that could afford and knew to go to certain museums, certain places that expose you to art. But if you're in a place like the trail, which I call the Runyon of Austin, Runyon Canyon in LA, for those who don't know, is like an incredible community place where you can build friendships, and all types of people go for hikes there. And the trail is that for us with 5 million visits a year. So if we could have great art that is local, but also international, and you have people from all walks of life getting exposed to that as a possibility or inspiration, it can just be something pretty to look at, but it could also inspire the next generation of artists. So I think it's very important.
I think it's so important because you shouldn't have to go only to a museum to see art. So many people don't, or haven't been, or maybe didn't go a lot as children and wouldn't think to go there, wouldn't necessarily feel comfortable, and go to museums too. Like go to UT, go to the museums. But at the same time, art shouldn't just exist in these one spaces, and it should be able to be in the space because, one, having beauty around you, why not live in a more beautiful world? Like, it inspires and it supports, and it can inspire artistry, but it also supports the artists who create it, which we want more of and want people to continue to express their way of seeing the world and to explore that. Something that really strikes me about you is that you see things and then you say, like, we should get involved in this. A lot of, like, I think that's actually pretty unique. I think a lot of people spot things like, wouldn't it be cool if we had art or more creativity? Why isn't that? And maybe they'll have an internal dialogue around it, or maybe they'll talk to a friend and it kind of ends there. And hopefully they'll take a step when someone else does it to support it. But I think that's even smaller. I think it's somewhat unique to see this and say, this would be cool. Let's get involved. Contact, introduce yourself, and now you work and spend a lot of time with the Trail Conservancy. What was that a choice that you made? Was that how you were raised? Like why are you like that?
I'm definitely somebody who jumps in head first. I grew up with a family that was very supportive of any interest. So I remember I grew up in Houston, Texas, and I was walking in the Galleria Mall, if you've ever been there. And the center of the old part of the mall has an ice skating rink in it. And I mean, I was a little, I could barely walk little girl. And I turned to my dad and I said, Poppy, I can do that. And he goes, oh, you can? And I go, uh-huh. And he goes, all right. And said to my mom, all right, Dina, let's see if Kelly can do this. And I ended up skating for years and years and years. But it was, I think from a very young age, I would look at something, go, I can do that, or I can be a part of that, or I want to be a part of that. And I had parents that were very supportive, that would go, okay, you want to play soccer? Great. Let's figure out where you need to sign up to be a part of that. I was never scared to get involved.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a family that, really my mom especially, that was like, yeah, of course you can do that. Why not? So that's a big part of why I don't just comment, but I want to get involved with things. I'm also somebody who likes to constantly be juggling and doing a lot of things at once, you know, that saying, if you need something done, give it to a busy person. Like, give it to me. Let me help. Let me help in whatever way that I possibly can, because I like having a lot on my plate. I like being involved. I like, back to the word connection and community. Like, I like connecting and I like building community and being a part of it. I'm not a tourist, you know. That my dear friend Jack always says, there are two types of people, maybe three types, but I think it's two types of people in the world. There are either people that are in the parade, or there are people that are watching the parade. And I'm definitely somebody that's in the parade. I want to be involved in whatever way that I can, and in whatever way people want me to be involved. There was something else that I was going to go back to on what you said. But
when you talked about your parents, I got this well of emotion. My parents are like that too, and it's special and it's unique. And it's something that it's such a gift to have. It's your natural tenacity. It's who you were born to be, but that was cultivated or supported, and so it didn't get snuffed out at a young age.
They fostered it.
And what a gift that is to be able to, because then once you just feel like you can see things and you're like, yeah, I could probably do that. Like, I want to do it. And do you have thoughts that run through your head around, like, can I? Like, do I have the skills for that? Will I be able to figure it out?
I mean, 100%.
Yeah.
I'm not like...
Exactly. So what do you do with that?
A walking confident monster. But, you know, I have self-doubt just like everyone else. I mean, even doing a podcast, I'm like, what am I supposed to be here talking about?
Okay, so that... I think we may have talked about this before, but I want to talk about it, because I think that's where a lot of people who are like, I have an idea, and they don't know what to do next, or they don't move forward. And I think a lot of it is because of sneaky self-doubt. And as a multi-passionate person, you're constantly having to learn new things. Like, you are stepped in this role of philanthropy. Had you ever done any Trail Conservancy work before? Was it?
No. I mean, I'd always volunteered. I was very involved with my sorority in college, and our philanthropy was CASA. So, you know, it was instilled in me to always give back, but not to the level that I'm now involved.
So you're having to learn new skills. And so how do you manage that self-doubt that comes up?
it keeps coming to me, so I need to say this. So I've said it, but I think surrounding yourself with people that are really cheerleaders and not people that would say to me, "Oh, well, Kelly, that's dumb. Like, why would you get involved with that?" But rather, "Oh, yeah, that sounds cool. I want to get involved with that too. Let's do it together." My partner, my husband, is really important. I was married once before, and that was detrimental to who I am in the world. And so choosing the right partner, I think, is incredibly important. And choosing the right friends, choosing the right people that are your circle that will support and hold you up and say, yeah, why can't you do that? Of course you can. And in fact, do you know so and so? Maybe they could help you. Like, the number one rule of improv is yes and. And I feel like when you are surrounded by people that are yes and people, life flows. The story of life flows. And if you're surrounded by people who are no people or don't believe something can happen or don't believe you should be involved, then the energy stops. Life stops. But no, I mean, I have doubts all the time.
Yeah. And I think that's an important piece because you have doubts all the time, and yet you've managed to maintain a 20-year acting career and to direct a film and to be progressed in bringing public art into Austin and to be involved in doing all this work. And you have other work that you're involved in that we haven't spoken around here on consulting work. And you have doubts, and yet you still do it. And you still move forward, and you're still able to create and contribute.
Yes, and I hope for the rest of my life I'm doing things that scare me. I think the more that you jump into something that isn't what you know, the more you're going to evolve as a person. I think it keeps you young too. uh, so I hope that I'm always doing that. I hope I'm always getting involved in doing something different and new, while obviously maintaining what I've built. But as long as I can, then I will.
I love it. I think it's so great because I felt it in myself, this shift of like, why can't I create this? And why can't I create something that's also not just for me? Like, for a while, I was like, I can create anything for my life, which is great. Create stuff for yourself. But also, like, why can't I get involved and create something that has a potential much bigger impact and ability to support people around me? And what would it look like if I got deeper involved in my community? Because before, maybe I was thinking about it more as like, that sounds like a lot of effort and time, and I wasn't considering how much you get back
Oh, yeah.
in being in service and genuinely connecting with others.
Yeah. Anytime I have a friend or myself, if I felt sad or depressed, but really this is my biggest advice for friends if they ever feel sad or depressed, is to go volunteer somewhere. Gain a little perspective on how great, number one, how great you have it. And number two, that feeling of giving back is only, if you're giving 100%, you're getting 1,000% back from that experience. So important.
It's so important. That was a new concept for me. I have a good friend here, Savannah, and she always tells me volunteering is my self-care. And when I met her, she had one under two and then an infant, and she was volunteering. And I was like, it was confusing for me. And she would talk to me about like, I get so much out of this and it really fills me up, which is such a beautiful way to be thinking about and to be experimenting like how to fulfill yourself.
And you don't have to be, I'm not a religious person, but you don't have to be religious to do it either. I think a lot of people kind of think of it as a churchy thing.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be. It can be, and that's great too.
Yeah.
But it doesn't have to be. There are so many opportunities out there to get involved and to give back, and really you're giving back to yourself.
Are there any opportunities that people should know about with the Trail Conservancy?
All the time.
Like what?
All the time. We have planting days, we have cleanup days, we have all these great activations on the trail. I mean, it just ended, but we had music on the trail. So it was every Wednesday for however many weeks, and different musical artists were there at the rainy trail head that just opened. But you can go on Instagram or the website, the Trail Conservancy. There are always opportunities to get involved.
We'll put it in the show notes.
Yeah, great.
And so as a person who's gotten involved in a lot of things, do you always have to go out and look? Like with the trail, did you apply for this, or do you find that opportunities sometimes make their way to you?
Yeah, well, so the woo-woo side of this is
Let's hear it.
I think that, at least for myself, the things that are meant for me come to me. And this very much came to me. We were on strike as actors for our industry was halted for nearly 8 months. And during that time, my husband had gotten involved with the trail. And I all of a sudden had all the time in the world on my hands. And I said to the former CEO, Heidi, use me, use my energy. I need to be doing something. Let me know how I can help. And she's the one who really pulled me in. And I got super involved with Twilight on the Trail, which is our largest fundraiser. It's a gala that happens towards the end of this year. Buy a table, come on. And then I got really involved with fundraising for a particular building that's on the trail, the water intake building. But that found its way to me. It's also the easiest thing in the world to cheerlead for because everybody uses the trail. It's free. It's free. It's an incredible amenity that so many people use for different things. I mean, I very much use it for my mental health. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of people do. Easy thing to sell.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's this piece of this, which is I think there's this theme in your story of like, it's not just you seeing things and wanting to get involved, but telling people, like informing people, like, I'm interested in this. I would like to work on this. I'm curious about this. And then what can happen from there. I think there can be a misconception when somebody's stepping into something new of I have to have the exact plan of how this is going to work. And I can't start it until I know how this is going to be successful.
Right.
And I think as a creative, you kind of have to be willing to set aside a very fixed expectation of what success will look like. But have you ever been caught in that thought pattern of like, I have to know? No.
I don't know why I haven't, because I know a lot of people do have that. I think because a lot of my childhood and adolescence was very up and down for various reasons, but life always worked out. Even though there were really scary moments and times, it always worked out, and usually for the better, for the best. And so I think that tumultuous childhood, which a lot of people would look at and go, oh God, even though I had great parents, but there were things, that almost trained me to always just let go and let God, as they say, just trust that it's going to come together. It's going to work out, probably for better than what I would have planned. So why not just ride the wave and see where the wave takes you?
How can you feel what projects are worth kind of let go and trust, and which ones are like, I don't know if I should pursue this? What does it feel like when you have that yes?
Great question. I think if I'm really excited about something and I can't stop thinking about it, then it's a very obvious yes and meant to be in my life. But if there's resistance on some level, if there's resistance to a thing or a person, then I'm not supposed to be a part of that experience, whatever that is. And some of the things that I'm involved with also drop off. All of a sudden it changes. I mean, so you've got to be, I guess, aware enough to go, okay, is my energy still best used in this space? Still.
You're willing to let go.
Yeah.
Sounds like.
I mean, yeah. There's a theme of that in my life. I don't think a lot of people would have left the first marriage that I left, but I did it thinking this is not where I'm supposed to be. And it was really taking me off my path. And I wasn't in my body anymore. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people would not have left. And I just thought, it's better to be alone for the rest of my life than be with somebody that wasn't the right path for me.
Yes. I think that is so important. The listeners of this podcast won't, I don't think, know that much about my story unless they've learned it from other places, but I've made a few significant leaps out of relationships, out of careers, out of things that I know most people wouldn't have left. And they were surprising to people around me. But I had this strong feeling of, I have to get out of this, and this is no longer right for me. And my logical mind would say, I don't know, it seems like it could work, and it's not that bad, and there's love, or there's support, or there's financial stability, or there's something here. And what I have found every single time on the other side is that there is way more. It's way better than what I could have envisioned for me.
Yeah.
And that if I stayed where I was, I would have put a ceiling over me that I was building a ceiling over me that I didn't even realize. And taking that step away, like, opened up my sky to what was possible for me.
It's, I say this actually about acting as well, because you kind of have to trust that all the work that you've done is there, and then you got to jump out of the plane and hope the chute opens, and just be in the moment. And that doesn't just apply to acting in a scene; that also applies to life. You got to just jump and know that the chute's going to open. You can't catastrophize this moment because it's not the end. Mm-hmm. Like, life will get better, mm-hmm. whatever you're going through in this moment. Mm-hmm. And
it always does.
It always does.
And so you've chosen like acting where you can reach levels of success. And then I was listening to the Amy Poehler podcast.
Yeah.
Great pod. It's called Great Hang. And one, I can't remember who was on there, but someone was saying on there, like, you can have this great gig but then the work finishes and you're out of work again. And you may feel confident work will come or feel okay, but you then are out of work again. Yep. And so there's this inherent instability in allowing this. And so how do you define then success for yourself when it can't look like that same stability in the same way that other people might define it?
Well, I felt the most successful in my career when I was on a show, of course, because you're guaranteed work for a while. Yeah. And you really are part of that family, and it's great. The question was, how do I define success?
Yeah.
Okay.
Or how do you still reach for that success and that feeling when it might look a little different?
Yeah, I don't know. There's no guarantee. There's no guarantee. I mean, I may never work again for the rest of my life as an actor, but the career I have had has been pretty incredible. So I look at it going, well, I bought a house. I have health insurance. Like, there are those kind of real world things that I was able and have been able to achieve from acting.
Yes.
Not from anything else, from acting.
Yeah.
And that's maybe it's a very worldly way of looking at it, but that feels successful to me.
Yeah.
But even if you're in a black box theater and making no money, and you have to have 10 other jobs to survive in life, if you're getting the laugh from the audience, or if you're getting somebody tearing up from something that you've done as an actor, that's success. Like, having an effect on other people.
Yes. You said it earlier about executing it well.
Yeah.
Like, even sending in the audition, even if I don't land the role, executing it well and feeling that I fulfilled this role in the way that I wanted to.
And I did it to the best of my ability.
Yes.
What's the the 4 agreements? It's always do your best.
Don't take anything personally. Live by your word.
Something like
that. Or something.
And I forgot the 4th one. But the first one is always do your best. Mm-hmm. And that's in whatever given circumstances you're in. So I might have, in fact, the biggest fight of my first marriage was right before I tested for the Sulphur Springs show that shot in New Orleans. biggest fight of that relationship. And I had to compartmentalize, knowing that I was probably going to leave my ex-husband, while also stepping into the final, when you're testing for a show, it's the final interview. It's like you and one other person, and it's yours to lose. So I had to just put it to the side and show up to the best of my ability in that given circumstance. And I did, and I booked it, and it was an incredible journey that I had on that show, and made great friends, and took me through a hard time in my life of leaving my ex-husband, but also then meeting my forever husband that I'm now with, and taking me through the pandemic. But I think always doing your best, whatever that means for you.
And the other thing I'm hearing in there is trusting that.
Yeah.
Like trusting and accepting and loving yourself enough to be like, I recognize that I did the best and that's all I can do. Rather than this constant look that I think a lot of people struggle with is like, but could I have done differently or more when you couldn't have? And accepting like I did my best, and I think your ability to be there is a success, and probably one of the many things that you strengthened through your acting career. That mindset.
Yeah, I think so. I also know when I didn't leave it all on the, what is that saying? When
Leave it on the field.
Yeah. Sayings today are really coming to me. But yeah, I know when I haven't left it all out on the field. And I know that feeling, that disappointed feeling of like, oh gosh, had I just run the lines 10 more times, I could have given myself the freedom to be there as an actor versus worrying about the lines. So there is a very technical side to acting that if you aren't fully prepared in that, on the technical side, then you can't allow the magic to come through. But I learned that lesson a long time ago, never to do that again.
Yeah.
I want to bring up coaches.
Yeah.
Because I had some incredible athletic coaches in my upbringing that it was definitely my parents that gave me that confidence to try anything and to get involved and to be part of the parade, not somebody watching the parade. But I also had great athletic coaches that really, and they're still friends of mine, that were real cheerleaders and said, no, you can do that. Go for it. And also saw parts of my personality that were really important to the team. I was on the golf team in high school. And sophomore year of high school at Clear Lake, there was an announcement, over the loudspeaker saying, girls golf tryouts in the ISS room after school today. And I remember thinking, I mean, I don't really play golf, but like, that'd be a cool skill to learn. Why not? And so I went, and the coach was Janice Balsamo is her name. And Balsamo gave us all a written test. I was like, a written test for golf? All right, whatever. And there were like 5 questions. And the questions were like, what is a birdie? I didn't know. I don't come from a family of golfers. And I wrote, I don't know, when you hit the ball with a bird, when you hit a bird with a ball, like I had no idea what it was. But I said to her afterwards, I was like, just so you know, I'm a very fast learner. I'm a hard worker, and I'm really good on a team. Like I'm a good team cheerleader. So, and she took me on, and I went from my first tournament of shooting 138, I think was what I shot. And my last tournament, which was about a year and a half later, I was captain of the team, and I shot in the 80s at state.
Wow.
And a lot of my work ethic, I always had a good work ethic, but I think even more so came through Balsamo. And I still have a written calendar, which sounds so silly these days, but it was something that I did in high school, was almost keep like a diary written calendar. And I would put quotes at the top that were inspiring me that month. I would write things that I was proud of that I did that month. And I still do.
Wow.
And it was Balsamo that really like kind of saw what I was doing, and she was like, Kelly, this is incredible, and you should teach other people how to do this. And I like went into a class to talk about it for her one of her classes that she taught, and I taught the other girls on the golf team like what I do and how I kind of track my progress and set goals and make sure that I'm kind of staying on the path that I want to stay on. And that came from her.
That's amazing. That is, I agree. I've had teachers, for me, I'm thinking of my, I was in marching band all 4 years, and my percussion director, Scott Warner, was like that. And he would give us impossibly hard work, like impossibly hard things to play. He would write it himself.
No, wow.
And then he would see if we could do it. And then we usually could. But he was never mad at us if we couldn't. But everyone would work really hard. And then because of that, we were getting to play things that no one else in the country was doing that. Because he was just like, let's see if you guys can do it. And then and he had so much fun and playfulness that it felt like we were challenging ourselves. I didn't even know that he was.
And you were safe to try.
We were safe to try, and he was just so excited to be there. I actually went back and saw him recently, and he is the same. This like super jovial, just loves playing, loves teaching kids, loves being around it. And I think having those people who are really good at what they do and they encourage it though too, and they teach you something and you learn that skill it stays with us our whole lives.
Yeah. It's really how I've lived life.
Yeah.
And always kind of assessing where I am. And, the greatest artwork you can have is how you live your life. And if you can always live it in a way that's authentic to you, but also creating and helping others around you create, that's the gift of life, I think, is to always keep going, doing, creating.
That's beautiful.
And not being afraid to make mistakes.
Yes.
That's the key. I know when I'm free in my acting. I mean, still today, I'm not always free, but if I'm properly in my zone and I'm free in my acting, I make mistakes, and I'm not afraid to make them. And a lot of times that's where the magic happens.
Why aren't you afraid to make them?
If I'm in the zone, I'm not afraid to make them. And the zone is totally being prepared, like doing all of my prep work that I have to do as an actor to feel safe on set. Like feel like, okay, I know my lines, I know who my character is, I feel good in this outfit, I feel good in my body, I've woke up the time I needed to wake up so I could do my morning routine, so I could be here in my body rather than all the other places you possibly could be. And then if you feel like I'm setting myself up 100% for success, then whatever mistakes you may or may not make are meant to happen.
You trust it.
Yeah.
And you trust yourself. And it doesn't become evidence of, I should have worked harder, I should have done more. Instead, it's just like, I'm in the flow of it, and this is just part of the experience.
And you're playing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know how that maybe relates to starting a business. I don't know how that relates.
I think it's very similar. Other entrepreneurs I talk about, you have to. Like, you do everything you can, and then you try things, and you will make mistakes. And part of it is just trusting, I've been working hard, and so I'm not, a lot of people make dumb mistakes too, because that's part of it too, where you didn't, the equivalent of, I should have run my lines more.
Yeah.
And I think as you mature, you make those a lot less. But the other mistakes are ones that are unpredictable, and that's literally the only way we can evolve. And it's the only way we innovate, and it's the only way we tap into something that was previously obscured from us. Kelly, thank you so much for coming on the Artist Rendezvous and for sharing about your life and your experiences.
Thanks for having me.
It was wonderful to talk with you.